Oh, there we go.
Right on. Actually,
You there?
yeah, I'm here and I got you recording too.
You and I had the same idea to do this outside, so.
Yeah. I did that because the girls are watching a movie inside and there's a lot of copyrighted music playing. That if this happens to go up on YouTube or anything, I wouldn't want it flagged for the copyright. Right. That's happened to me before.
Oh, has it?
Yeah. Several times.
Okay. So, are you ready to go?
Ready to go when you are, yep.
Okay, well, I'm just hitting record here, so. Okay. It's a good shot of you. We can edit that out.
No, leave it. It's good.
Yep. Hey, so it's Ryan Heavyhead. How's it going?
It's going good.
That's good.
I'm feeling a little bloated.
Okay.
I just finished a special dinner of off-brand macaroni and cheese, basically a Kraft Mimic.
Okay.
with off-brand luncheon meat, basically a Spam Mimic. All diced up into the macaroni and cheese. Very healthy food. Yeah, we were at the Sundance. My wife and I were at the Blood Tribe Sundance yesterday, and the Horn Society feeds the camp, like gives out rations, they call it, to the whole camp.
Okay.
But yeah, this was some of the stuff that came with the rations. So we just try to use it. They usually give out a lot of healthy stuff like that, and loaves of white bread. Usually some like cans of creamed corn, cans of stewed tomatoes, cans of mushroom soup, some Ichiban.
Now, is this during or after?
This is during during their ceremony.
Oh, okay.
So they
is
give
there
this
no
out.
Fasting involved with it?
They give this out to the entire camp. Right? Everybody's circled around them, watching them, and they have a giant pile of food in the middle of the camp. All these grocery stuffs, and they bring it all out and give it all away. And probably what you should do with it is just throw it all together into a pot and make one big stew and be done with it, right?
Yeah. You need a big cauldron or something.
Yeah.
To just put it in.
Yeah, but we decided that we were going to use up our mac and cheese with Spam tonight, and so I'm feeling a little bit.
It's coursing through, is it?
Yeah. I feel a little bit bloated and a little bit slow. And I have a Slurpee that I'm just finishing up that went with it. That
perfect.
Because I was out picking garlic today. I was out doing a garlic harvest, and it was hot after several hours of picking garlic, so I decided to get a Slurpee, even though that's like giant sugar rush. So I'm sure that's not helping my situation. But as soon as I'm done with the Slurpee, then I'm turning on to the non-alcoholic Molson XL beer.
Oh, okay. Have you tried the Budweiser stuff yet?
No, I have not. I've thought about it, but when I went to the store to check it out, it's like twice the cost of the Molson. And if it's anything like what regular Budweiser beer tastes like, then I know I already don't like it, right?
Okay. My dad tried some, and he said it was exactly like regular Budweiser beer.
Really?
So,
really?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. That's. I'm interested though. Just to try it out. But I mean, I can buy 24 of these for $14, and the Budweiser, you can't do that. And I don't know why, because it's Budweiser. It should be like cheap, and they're obviously just getting into the market because they realize that the market's picking up. That yeah, more and more people are buying non-alcoholic beer.
Right. Yeah. So, what was your experience at Sundance?
Well, I go to Sundance every year, and this year I didn't go to the whole of the Sundance. The Sundance is usually about 10 to 14 days, depending on what all ceremonies are going on. Not every year do all the ceremonies that normally occur there. Like there's one kind of culmination ceremony called the Okan that only occurs if there's a woman that makes a vow to host it, and she does a 4-day fast and thirst.
Oh. Okay.
And the whole camp puts up this special lodge for her at the end, and all the societies go in and sing and dance for her at the end of at the kind of the last day of the Sundance. But when that's not happening, and it's never every year, when that's not happening, then the last dances are the Horn Society dances. They dance for 4 days. So it usually opens up. The Women's Society do their dance for 4 days, and then you'd have the Dove Society do their dances, their ceremonies. Brave Dogs do their ceremonies, and then the Horn Society do their ceremonies, and then the Okan if there's going to be one.
Okay.
So this year we pretty much just went to the Horn Society, which for this year that's kind of the culmination stuff. So
okay.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. So it was good. It's always good to be there because it's really like one big family reunion. You know, we know everybody there, and it's a nice time where everybody's relaxed. There's no cell phone usage. You just shut down and enjoy each other's company. Not really, but it's just well, there is a taboo against like photographing or videotaping or anything like that there. If you're seen doing that, members of the Dove Society or the Brave Dog Society can come and confiscate your phones, and they don't give them back. And there were some visiting university professors that had their phones confiscated this year for photographing or videotaping the Horns dances.
Oh, wow.
Second to last day. So, yeah, that kind of stuff is taboo, and it's really not like a traditional taboo. It doesn't go back to the origin of the societies or anything, of course.
Well, no.
Right? And lots of photographs and video were taken, at the turn of the century at the exact same ceremonies. But if we were open to that today, what the camp would be like during the ceremonies. Everybody would just have their phones and stuff out, and it would be ugly. It would be ugly. Yeah. So.
Well, it does kind of take away, right? So
yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it into a spectacle, makes it into something else, and so so it's always nice to just go and just be present with people for a while,
Yeah.
Which is kind of unusual these days. And if you camp there, it's even more so. Like if you go there and put up a teepee and camp there, and are there for the 10 days, it's really quite the experience because it's like a retreat basically from the modern culture.
Fair enough, yeah. So people aren't pulling up in RVs and stuff like that, eh?
Well, nowadays there are some RVs, but a lot of people still try to use the teepees. The camp is mostly teepees.
Okay.
So it's pretty nice. We had, I won't go into it. We had kind of a unfortunate event yesterday, right before the Horns dance. We found out that one of the ceremonialists that normally participates in that Okan, in that big culmination ceremony that only occurs when the woman makes a vow. One of those people had passed away.
Oh, gee.
So it kind of put a damper, right toward the end of the ceremony because everybody was upset about the sudden passing. But yeah, other than that, it's really good. Always really nice to be out there and see everybody and enjoy the ceremonies.
Okay. So is it at a particular place? Because you said that if somebody hosts it, so does it move to different locations, or is it in a particular?
Well, it can be. It has in the past been at several different places. Right now, it's normally done just below the Belly Buttes, and the reason that it's done there is because right down below the buttes there, along the Belly River, is really the best berry picking spot on the reserve.
Oh, okay.
And traditionally, this is a berry harvest camp.
Okay.
This is the camp to harvest the Saskatoons. So everybody's going to go there anyway.
Yeah.
And so the kind of the day-to-day experience was you'd get up and you'd go down and everybody would go down and pick Saskatoons, right? Well, the women mostly and children would go down and pick Saskatoons while the men hung out at camp and had important meetings. And
the bullshit club convenes. It's funny that you mentioned it because I was out camping not this weekend but the weekend before.
Right.
And if the Saskatoons there or anything, the Saskatoons that were on that golf course that we were playing in by Stettler, ooh, they were pretty tasty.
Yeah, they're really delicious. So, and then in the afternoon when things are hot, everybody goes out and goes in the river and swims, has a good swim, goes back, maybe take a nap, and then in the evening, late afternoon, evening, you have ceremony.
Okay.
And after the ceremony, people will go and visit each other's lodges and have dinners and these kind of things, and you eat a lot there.
Okay.
You eat and eat and eat.
Okay. See, and for some reason, I don't know why, I thought it was a fasting event. I thought it...
No, it's... No. Well, this is kind of the more kind of pan-Indian New Agey Sundance you're talking about.
Okay.
Which are just people that want to ritually torture themselves, basically. So there was an element of that.
Wouldn't you just go for a 3-hour Orthodox Mass if you were about to ritually torture yourself?
There's people...
In Latin or in Greek?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. There's kind of a subculture of Indigenous North America now, and not only Indigenous North America, but worldwide, because there's a lot of participants that are non-native that travel around the world to go to these Sundances.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And basically, it's like a club to see, who can give themselves the most scars over the years, make the most flesh offerings. And well, people make vows. I'm going to dance for 4 years, and then when their 4 years is done, they'll start making up more vows. I'm going to dance for 4 years for this purpose and that purpose. And when they're doing it, it's fasting, it's, making flesh offerings, either just cutting it right off of their body or hooking up to the center pole.
Right.
So that is part of the Blood Tribe's Sundance too, but it's a very, very small part, right? And it's not, it hasn't been done at the main camp for a long time. And the only time, you're really supposed to make one of those vows is if you're trying to save somebody from dying. Their death is imminent. Like they're going to die like in the next, 24 hours at least. And the things look terrible. So you basically are saying you're going to sacrifice for them to live. You're going to sacrifice your body. And when you do that, what they said in Blood Tribe tradition and Blackfoot tradition is that if you make a flesh offering like that, you've given your body to the sun, and basically you're going to have a shorter life. It's not just that you're given a piece of flesh; it's that you're going to be taken sooner in life as well. Yeah. So it's not done a lot, but it is a part of it. It is a part of the ceremony, but it's not the big part. The big part is everybody being together, in the old days for the berry harvest. Now it's just kind of like everybody there to visit, to be around family, to enjoy a retreat from modernity, and in the evenings enjoy ceremony.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so
okay.
It's a good experience.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like I'd been invited a few years back, but I wasn't able to go for a few different reasons. So it would be it'd be interesting. I've heard different things about it. So yeah. It was kind of a joke actually. Oh, Aaron, you can hook yourself up to the center pole there. So yeah. So I wanted to ask you. I was down in we've kind of talked about it a little bit before in terms of sacred sites and that sort of thing, and I sort of mentioned it when we were talking before about writing on stone and the joke about the Sphinx of writing on stone, right?
Right.
When you look at it, and you close one eye and kind of cock your head a little bit, it kind of looks like the back head of the Sphinx.
Yeah, that's right.
I was curious about that, because I know it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So I was curious, like, I don't know much of the story of it, and I was wondering if you might have some, like, what the background of the site is.
Well, just the Sphinx alone, or all of writing on stone?
Well, all of it, really, yeah.
Okay, so writing on stone in Blackfoot, this place is called Asinepi, which just basically means it's written there.
Okay.
And the Blackfoot tradition is that this is a place to go for vision questing.
Okay.
And if you're going to go try to do something important, that you're going to be traveling ways to do that, you might go there beforehand and sleep and see what the walls tell you.
Okay.
As kind of a way to get a sense of whether you're going to succeed at what you're going to do or not, or if some bad luck might befall you.
Okay.
Right? So the Blackfoot tradition is that those writings are not made by humans.
Oh.
That they're made by spirits.
Okay.
And that they change, over time. New drawings and stuff come in there. Although we do know historically that some of the writings there were definitely made by people, like Bird Rattler, for instance, has some drawings there we know were made by Bird Rattler, and were recording historical events. And we know that there's certain battles that are depicted there. So I think there's more than one thing happening there. Although a lot of elders will tell you, that it's the spirits that make those drawings. And they're said actually they're done by bluebirds. The bluebirds will come and peck the drawings. But
sorry, I'm getting a bit of scratching on your end there, Aaron.
Okay.
Oh, that's a bit better.
I don't know what that is, but
yeah.
Yeah, they say that the bluebirds will come and peck the drawings in to the wall. But then we also know that archaeologically, different tools for creating those drawings have been found below the panels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, different kind of antler and bone tools that would be used to scrape and make the drawing. So I think there's multiple things going on there.
Sure.
There are these really interesting. Well, of course, there's the hoodoos themselves. In the hoodoos, people see a lot of. There's a technical word for that. You may know it, where you can see shapes and things come out of relief from natural objects. Like, a lot of people will look at that one that you're talking about and see the Sphinx.
Right.
If you were to actually walk underneath by the panels where that is, and you looked up at it, you'll see a bison very clearly.
Oh.
Yeah, you'll see a bison's face with his tongue sticking out, and it's really clear. It's really awesome, actually.
Oh.
But from the other side and above, it does look like the Sphinx.
Sphinx, yeah.
So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of these kind of things there too, where people will see things in rocks. One of the really important traditions that's connected with Asinepi is the Katoyis stories. Katoyis was kind of a Blackfoot, like a Hercules almost, a hero. And he had a miraculous birth, and he went around Blackfoot territory kind of slaying monsters and things that were hurting people.
Okay.
And Asinepi is where he died and turned to stone. And the reason he turned to stone there was that he and his dog he had a little dog called Sisum that always traveled with him. And he and his dog were up by the Bow River by Calgary, And when they went across the river, there was this big toad there, who was kind of like a troll,
Okay.
you know, that didn't want people crossing without paying a toll. and so Katoyis, refused to abide by the toad, and actually went to kill it. But the toad cursed him before he got killed, and cursed him with, as soon as he falls to sleep, he's going to turn to stone, and that's the end of him. And given that the toad was dead, there was nobody who knew how to take off the curse.
Okay.
So
what was the toll? Just out of curiosity, what?
I don't know what was asked of him.
Okay.
I think I was told that part, but I forget.
Okay.
But he wasn't going to do it, and he killed the toad. He went straight for that place anyway because he had intended to kill the toad. This was his thing. He would find out where stuff was happening, and he liked that, and he would go to kill the monsters.
Square it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the toad killed him. And so he traveled some distance, and then his dog, and I forget the place where that happened too. There used to be a rock outside of one of the banks in a town between here and Calgary that was known as that dog. And that rock has since been removed, but it was there in front of a bank at one time. And I forget which town that was. For some reason I'm thinking Cochrane, but that's I don't think that's right. But any case, Katoyis made it down to Writing on Stone area. That's where he ended up turned to stone. So one of the hoodoos down there is thought of as Katoyis.
Okay.
And it's also the name of the Blackfoot name for the sweet grass hills that are there.
Right.
After
okay.
him. Yeah. So there's a strong connection to Katoyis there. So some people think that if you look at the panels around there, you'll find all the Katoyis stories as well. That they're all in there.
Do you think that is there panels that haven't been found yet? Do you think?
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I was curious too if there's anything about. There's a lot of rattlers down there.
There are a lot of rattlesnakes there.
Yeah.
There's no particular Blackfoot tradition about why those snakes are there.
Okay.
But it's a big snaky place for sure.
Yeah. I had a friend, when you mentioned it was a place for Vision Quest, so I knew a guy that actually went there, actually with a fairly famous MMA fighter.
Oh yeah.
And they were both doing mushrooms on the hoodoos.
Yeah.
And so he was standing there, and he saw 3 or 4 snakes come out towards him.
Oh yeah.
And he thought he was just hallucinating. So but there was this sort of simpatico, almost like a telepathic connection with the snakes.
Right.
I'm not here to hurt you. The snakes kind of got it, like they weren't rattling or anything like that. He kind of got from them, we're cool.
Right.
The snakes were going around his leg and in and out. He got pictures.
Wow.
This actually happened. Yeah. So when you said it was a place for Vision Quest, that's the first thing that came to mind. It still is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And it's also a place where some people are buried. Yeah, and if you're in some of the panels, and you look around on the ground around you, you're gonna see all kinds of little bone shards and stuff that have been from bodies that were set above. You'll see these kind of in the hoodoos. You'll see these shelves around the panels, and the bodies would be set just in those shelves.
Right.
And so you can still find human bone all over the place in there.
Do we have any idea how long, like how old some of the pictographs in that are, or how long it had been used as a burial site? Or?
There's different ideas about that. based on some of the technologies there. For instance, we know like there's obviously horse era stuff there because there's horse depictions and horse era, warfare depictions and these kind of things.
Okay.
And then there's older stuff there where the warriors are carrying what they're called heavy shields, and they basically go from the chin to the ground. They're big, round, heavy shields. And one of my in-laws, Quentin Heavyhead, used to work there, and he noticed that there's several depictions of a weapon that doesn't exist anymore.
Oh.
And it's a bow with a spear point at one end. And so he thinks it used to be some kind of a weapon of warfare where you could shoot the bow, but you could also spear people with it.
Long range and short range combat.
Yeah, but others, like some archaeologists believe that those are more depictions of atlatls.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know, but there's stuff going back, fairly old there, but I don't know. I couldn't give you an exact date on how old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so the Sweetgrass Hills? I mean, I've never actually been there. I guess you can go caving in there and all that sort of thing because it's right across.
Right.
Basically, it's right across the river and right across the Milk River and right across the border, right just over the Montana border in the States.
Yeah, that's right. The East Butte has a cave in there where there was an interesting mask found at one time.
Oh.
That has inlaid abalone shell in it, which isn't typical of Blackfoot tradition.
Okay.
So that's the only place that I know has a cave. I've climbed the West Butte. Each of the buttes is known to have different spirits. Like if you went up there and fasted on each of the buttes, the West Butte in particular is supposed to have a really vicious spirit.
Oh.
And in the past, some of the people who'd gone there to fast, they were given powers, but in turn they were asked to make a payment. And a lot of times it was like a family member, a wife or a child they had to bring up there and sacrifice for their powers.
Wow.
There was a turn of the century gentleman by the name of Calf Shirt, Mean Calf Shirt. There were two Calf Shirts. There's Calf Shirt, the rattlesnake guy. He's different. Okay. And then there's the one known as Mean Calf Shirt, who got his powers up there and was really a vicious man. Yeah, he used to drink a lot at the whiskey trade forts, and he used to fight a lot with anybody, in the Blackfoot camps, at the whiskey trade forts and stuff. Everybody was scared of him, and he ended up being killed at Fort Kipp. They saw him coming and decided to just unload on him, and it took about all their firepower, the guys that were in there, so many bullets to rain down on him to knock him down. And then they drug him down to the Belly River, now called the Old Man River, and they stuffed him under the ice.
Oh.
And then that's where he was found by his relatives. They chopped him out of the ice, and there's a real famous story about how there's a song that his wives were supposed to sing and pour whiskey in his mouth if he was found dead, and he would come back to life. And so they started doing this, and everybody was gathered around, including some people from Siksika who were down here visiting, including Chief Crowfoot, who was famous for being at the signing of Treaty 7, being one of the major signatories. So I guess he was all in kind of like a fetal position when they found him, and the first time they put any liquor in his mouth, one of his legs unfolded, and Chief Crowfoot kind of like freaked out and ran away. and his wives decided to stop. They weren't going to go any further because they didn't really want him back.
They didn't really want him back. This looks like it's working, so we're just going to stop.
Yeah, that's too close for comfort.
Yikes. Wow.
Yeah.
So, what other, there's some of the more famous sites in that around southern Alberta, like Head Smashed In and that sort of thing. But what other, are there some really important, maybe not so well known places?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there's the different cairns that they call, medicine wheels and stuff like that. Yeah. So there's several of those. Two of the most prominent ones down here being Majorville, of course, and Sundial. Majorville is an effigy of the sun, the moon, and the morning star, and basically, this is where you go if you want to make an offering to the sun.
Okay.
If you want to go directly to the sun to make an offering, you can go there.
Why there? Any idea?
Because something happened there. The origin of something happened there, and some of that is lost today.
Sure.
Like some of the origins. We've got, different people have different ideas about Majorville. Some believe it was the origin site of the Iniskim, because right down below there, there's a lot of Iniskim. It's a very famous source for the buffalo stones, the bakelite fossils that were used to represent the big glacial erratics that were on the landscape that were actually used to call in the buffalo for hunting. So some people believe it's the origin site of the Iniskim, because before the Iniskim, Blackfoot hunting was just done by wolf knowledge. Right? It's basically wolf-style hunting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so basically running them down, endurance running, sneaking up on them, scaring them, running them down, getting them exhausted, and then making kills.
Okay.
That was taught by the wolves. But after the Iniskim origin, then people had learned to use the glacial erratics to set them up in the land to look like bison, that were laying on the ground, look like bison calves and these kind of things, so that the bison would see them from a distance and be drawn toward them and basically drawn into an ambush.
Okay.
And it made hunting a lot easier. Made bison hunting a lot easier. So it was a super huge, important historical event for the Blackfoot in terms of the change of technology. It was like going from horses to cars, for Blackfoot history, Yeah. It was a big deal. So some people think that was the place for the origin of that. But why it was then an effigy of the sun, rather than something else, it doesn't, there seems to be something, to me, it doesn't seem right, that would be the origin site for the Iniskim.
Oh.
It's also a place that's totally untreed.
Right.
The river valley down below, like if you go down on the river below, there's no trees, there's no forest, no floodplain forest, nothing. It's very barren.
Okay.
So, to me, it doesn't seem like it would be the place for the origin story of the Iniskim, because the Iniskim spoke to the woman, the first Iniskim, called to the woman there's a woman, basically the camp was starving, they hadn't had bison for a long time. There was a woman out gathering guinea, the rose hips, which suggests it's kind of a bushy place to begin with. But I think she could have been getting the prairie rose that are right close to the ground. I don't know.
Okay.
But anyway, she heard a song. Let me see if I can pull that song up in my mind.
Gotta put a quarter in the jukebox.
Hey, 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 O matake o mato kirome nita to suyomae ya hey 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 na hey 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 na home hey 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 na home. So in the song saying the saying, "You woman, pick me up, I'm sacred."
Oh.
And so she's looking around for this voice.
Yeah.
And on a log, she sees this little rock that looks like a buffalo. And then she picks it up, and then it starts talking to her, and it starts giving her instructions about what to do to get the buffalo. And ultimately, it included a whole ceremonial complex for calling the buffalo to the people using that Iniskim technology. But there's a whole ceremonial complex that goes along with it too.
Oh, okay.
So some people think that's where that happened, but the landscape to me doesn't speak to it that well. It's just the fact that there's a lot of Iniskim down there. Why people think that?
Why that's right. Okay, that's the
so, But there's Iniskim. You can find Iniskim here in Lethbridge too.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it happens. It's not like as many as are there, but they're around here as well.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly what did happen at Majorville, but that's one theory. But in any case, I do know that it's a place where, if you want to make an offering to the sun, bring something to the sun, like sometimes a person in there, if they have their a bundle that they're taking care of, something wears out and they want to replace that, then you're supposed to bring the thing that's worn out to somewhere to make it an offering. Now you usually will bring that back to the origin site of the bundle if you can, but say that origin site of the bundle is not known, then you might bring it to someplace else special, and bringing it to the sun is a pretty good place to bring it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what's going on there. What's going on at Sundial would have been similar. There's ideas about that too, Sundial Butte, about what happened there, and some people believe that that's the site for the story of Soatsaki, the woman who married the star, who brought down some of the ceremonial complex for the Okan, for that culmination, that big lodge at the end of the Sundance that didn't happen this year, but does happen some years.
Okay. And are there a lot of the cairns around? Like, I mean, there's those two, but are there other ones?
Oh yeah.
That are pretty, yeah.
Yeah, there's several cairns around. A lot of them are overgrown. A lot of them are on private lands where, the landowners aren't making them very well known. Archaeologists know about them.
Okay.
Some of the elders know about them because the archaeologists will bring them out there and such. But the general public really doesn't know where they are.
Yeah.
Even like Sundial Butte, that the knowledge of that place had been gone from Blood Tribe for a while. See, when after Treaty 7, when the people moved on to reserves, the Indian agents wouldn't allow them to leave the reserves. It was illegal, in fact, for them to leave the reserves without a permit from the agent. And so, and that went on into the 1960s.
Wow.
That you had to have a permit to leave the reserves. So if you want to go visit family on another reserve, you could do that if you can get the agent to give you a permit.
Permission, yeah.
Yeah, but you're just going point A to point B, you're not going to get a permit to go visit some sacred site out on somebody's farmland, in ranch land or whatever. So for almost a century, people were cut off from these sites. So this is why a lot of the precise knowledge about the, which origins is attached to which site is not known. But you can kind of read the landscape and maybe get a gist of what it. If you know the stories, it might come to you a bit. Hey,
right? Yeah.
So, I'm in agreement actually that the Sundial Butte is probably the origin site for the Soatsaki portion of the origins of the Okan. The Okan evolved in several stages, but Soatsaki was one of the more recent, but it's still thousands of years ago.
And that's been. I mean, there's been some controversy about that, right? How old, are some of these sites, right?
Yeah. Well, like Majorville and Sundial are 5,000 years old at least. That they predate the pyramids of Egypt, so they're old. But if they're older than that, we don't know. The biggest controversy about age in Blackfoot territory comes from Tabor Child.
Right. Yeah, and I remember you mentioning that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we were talking about the Graham Hancock thing.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest controversy because that places some kind of human occupation here in southern Alberta at about 60,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And as far as the geologists who found the remains were coming out from a layer of sediment that was between two different glacier tills.
Yeah. In situ, right?
In situ, yeah. Embedded in situ, coming out between these two different glacier tills. So it definitely was before the last glaciation, and the way he was reading that sediment, it was so far down toward the next layer of glacier till that he thought it's at least 40,000 years, but it's probably more like 60,000 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so the archaeologists, of course, jumped all over him because that doesn't fit their canonical
the
narrative.
Geologists that are throwing a wrench into the archaeologists' view of things.
I know, yeah.
That's what happens when you have people that specialize in, rocks and silt layers and that sort of thing. Right?
That read what the land is telling them and, instead of relying on radiocarbon dating techniques.
Yeah,
that seem to place everything at 12,000 years or earlier.
And what's really interesting, Ryan, there was a story actually not too long ago, and it wasn't about carbon, but it was about oxygen. They found they were little cubits, but they were old cubes, like tens, hundreds of millions of years old.
Right. And
they were shocked when they started to do the analysis of them, because it indicated that the oxygen levels were something like 10 to 15% higher than anybody had expected the to be. So it just goes to show we have no idea. Like the radiocarbon dating thing, really, it assumes that everything's the same.
Yeah, it depends. That there has to be a constant level of carbon in the...
Yeah. So... I mean, the measurement is what it is, and it measures it, but there's a lot of assumptions that are actually built into radiocarbon dating as well. So
yeah, you're looking at what's the half-life of the carbon or whatever, but if there was more carbon than you're expecting.
Yeah, exactly. So
and then there's some other sites up by Nanton area. There's a thunder pipe site up there. Yes, a pipe. We hadn't got to tobacco yet.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping to talk about it. That's for sure.
Yeah. So there's a thunder pipe site up there. That's on private land, and the landowner doesn't even like tribal people to come up there.
Oh, really?
No. I bring students up there. But I always tell him before we go out there that this guy doesn't like us there. He doesn't live right on the site.
Okay.
He lives several miles away, out of view of it, but he might drive up that way, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, I always tell the students, all right, we're going to go up there, but if somebody comes to confront us, it's every man, woman for herself, because we're trespassing, and I've been told not to be there. I've been told that we're not welcome there.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Apparently, what he's said is that he's afraid that there's going to be damage done to the site, right?
Okay.
That there's going to be some kind of what do you call it when somebody purposely
vandalism
vandalizes?
Kind of a thing?
Yeah. He thinks it'll be vandalism.
Yeah.
But if you go to the site, actually, there's a whole bunch of vandalism and graffiti from the high school kids from Nanton all around, not on the actual panel, because I don't know why, but it doesn't seem that they found the panel.
Oh.
But it's in a bit of a cave.
Oh, okay.
But still, it's these couple of big glacial erratics that are pushed together such that they have a little cave underneath them. And the kids seem to climb all over the glacial erratics and do spray painting and all of this stuff. But for some reason, they haven't gone in the cave, or if they have, they've respected the site. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but there's a really nice panel in that cave with a thunderbird shooting lightning into a man's head, and there's a depiction of the moon there, and there's a depiction of a man with a wolf's head there. And then down below on the cattle, where the cattle of that landowner are being run right now, there's another cairn that corresponds with the site. So there's that site, and then almost directly west of Nanton, there's a canyon where there's a couple of different pictograph panels with some figures, humanesque figures, with animal types of heads that we haven't really sorted out what they are.
Oh, so like a therianthrope kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're very interesting. So there's a nice panel. Well, there's one really nice clear panel in there that has basically some different warfare scenes, and then this more faded panel that's been exposed to more weather and sunlight that has some of those zoomorph type of, yeah. So yeah, there's that site. Up from there, there's what's called Women's Buffalo Jump by Kaylee.
Okay.
That's a unexcavated buffalo jump. It's really nice to visit. There's some pictographs there as well, and that goes back to Napi's time. There's a Napi story about the first marriage between men and women, because there was a time when people seemed to be following kind of the social structure of ungulates, right? And this I've seen before. Like, I worked for the Hupa tribe in Northern California, and they used to use, a lot of their stuff came from the deer. Okay. And so men and women lived separately almost all year long, except during the acorn harvest time. And at that time, the men and women would, the husbands and wives would stay together.
Right.
And so you had to be born in April or May, or you were considered an illegitimate child. That's when women calved out.
Wow. Okay.
So here there was something like that going on at one time too, but that's very old. It's Napi's time. So this is the time, the end of the last glacier period is the Napi time. This is when the megafauna are changing.
Right.
And so at that time, there's a story about this site where the women had created this, like, they were using this buffalo jump and successfully getting a lot of bison to eat, and the men didn't know anything about using buffalo jumps, or the men were like starving in their camp. It gets like when the right person tells it gets really funny too, because they describe like the women's stuff is all nice, Their teepees are really nice, their clothing's nice and soft, and you go to the men's and it's all like, all really worn out teepees, and it's all pretty much like rawhide. And the stuff,
bachelor pad,
yeah,
right?
the stuff they're wearing is not tanned well, and yeah, it's bad. And Napi's like the leader of the men's camp at that time, and the women have a pet magpie, and the men have a pet crow.
Okay.
And that goes back a long time to some other stories, but yeah, it was always this way. The magpies were pets of the women, and the crows were pets of the men, and they would be hunting partners, and they would also be warner. They warn them when danger's coming, this kind of thing. This was, before dogs, right? They were kind of the hunting partners and protectors before the dogs, and so one of the times that the women got a good bison kill, their pet magpie made off with a big piece of fat, flew away with it to eat it, where it wouldn't get it stolen away by the women. They were mad that it stole it, so it flew away to eat it. And while it was eating there, the crow saw it from the men's camp. And it's like, what's that? Went down and scared the magpie off, took the fat, went back to the men's camp with it. And the men saw it, and they're like, where did this come from, right? And so there was a guy in that camp who was known to have coyote powers, who Napi sent to try to sort it out, where this came from, to try to sniff it out and trace it back to its source. And he made his way to the women's camp and saw that they had a bunch of buffalo go over that cliff. And they were butchering, and they had a lot of meat and stuff. And he met with the chief woman there, and told her, that the kind of condition that the men were in and stuff, and that Napi thought it was a good idea that the men come in, and maybe that now the men and the women should come and be together, and they'd pair up and just live together year round, right? So she agreed to this, right? And sent the guy back to go get Napi and the other men. And while they were gone, she told all the women what was happening, and they all went and they started getting fancied up and prettied up and everything, because they were going to be choosing husbands, right? But she, being like their chief, she thought, I'm just going to keep butchering, because I know who my husband's going to be. It's going to be this Napi character, right? It's the chief of the men's camp. So the men came and they lined up. They all lined up on the rim above the jump.
Mm-hmm.
And so the women walked up there, and including the chief woman, and she had all like blood and guts all over her, from butchering and stuff. She looked disheveled and everything, and all the other women looked all pretty. She went to go like grab Napi, and he pulled away from her. Right? He tugged away. So, get away! I don't want you.
She didn't get a rose.
Yeah, she didn't want. Yeah, yeah. So she tried one more time, and he pulled away again. So she went back to her women, and she told them, "All right, that man's got some problem. I don't want to be with him. I'm going to be with that man who came here and visited. But all of you choose a husband, but nobody choose that man, that one that's got a problem." So so all the women went up, chose husband. She took the guy that had the coyote power, and nobody chose Napi. So he was left standing there all alone. And they even have a phrase about this in Blackfoot. When you stand alone, they say that he turned into a lone pine tree. But this was after, like, he spent the whole like rest of the day and night there waiting for somebody to come choose him. Nobody came and chose him, so he got mad. He started stomping on the top of the buffalo jump, and he broke off this big piece. So when you go to women's buffalo jump, you'll see that there's a big chunk broken out of it. There's a big gap in it where Napi was stomping, and then they say he turned into a lone pine tree. So this is what they call kind of wallflowers in Blackfoot, is a lone pine tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's always a plant.
Yeah. I don't know why.
So speaking of which, it might actually be, I was going to ask you about animals, but maybe talking about, because I know the tobacco, we were talking about that earlier, because I bought a pipe today.
Right. Yes, you got a pipe.
It's all loaded and everything. The bowl's all full.
Ooh. So what? Okay, so I'm curious what drew you to the pipe.
You know, it's interesting. I've thought about it for a really long time. I've never been a smoker.
Yeah.
So I've had maybe, I can count on one hand the amount of cigarettes, the number of cigarettes, well, maybe two, the number of cigarettes that I've had. Right. I do like cigars, but I don't know, there's something about the pipe that's, and just going through it with the people today at the tobacconist.
Yeah.
Like it's really a ritual you go through. It's a very structured thing. Even in that, even the modernity context, right? Of just going to the tobacco shop and buying the pipe, and you have to get the right one for you. It's kind of like going to what's it, Diagon Alley or whatever. Harry Potter. You got to get the right wand for you, right? So
picking out your wand
pipe and the tobacco, and I've always had an interest in things like incense and that sort of thing, and that sort of spilled over into tobacco and that.
Right.
And I know that tobacco, is from North America.
That's
and
right.
It was introduced into Europe, a lot, further along in history. A lot of people don't realize that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tobacco is basically another kind of smudge.
Right.
But you're smudging. The smudge is coming from out of your body. When you're burning the tobacco, right? So it's a really interesting one. The origins of the tobacco here, I know a lot about because of my role with the Beaver Bundle.
Okay. Yeah.
I've always had some kind of tobacco in my life. I haven't, right now, I haven't been smoking like a smoker for about the last 4 years, but I had about 20 where I was constantly, and and I started with a pipe, a corncob pipe actually, because I was a big Huckleberry Finn fan.
Yeah.
So I had a corncob pipe, but I smoked for a long time, and then got involved with the Beaver Bundle, and part of the Beaver Bundle complex involves the tobacco planting and the tobacco harvest and all of the knowledge about the tobacco, its origins and the ceremony around it and all of this stuff. So Adrian and I today, we still grow our tobacco, the old tobacco from the Beaver Bundles, the old seed.
Sorry, Ryan, you're breaking up a little bit there.
Okay, you froze there for a second too. So
there we go. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know where I was, but we're still growing the old tobacco here.
So
from the old seed.
So what? Is it? It's not. Is it? Can you just find it anywhere, or is it really specifically?
No. This is something that has to be grown by people. It doesn't grow by itself naturally here.
Okay.
It won't survive the winter.
Okay.
We've had tobacco beds that you might get a few plants that continue the next year off of seeds that dropped. So the rare seed's going to survive the winter, but over any extended period, you're not going to have tobacco survive. You have to take care of the seeds, and it's kind of like corn. Corn is not going to keep growing unless you plant it. These are something about the plants of native North America that were domesticated. You basically have to plant them, or they don't grow.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was a slash and burn horticulture tradition here to grow tobacco, and there's two different plants, and that comes from the origin story. One is a little bit bigger and is just a everyday kind of a smoke, and one is small and comes from the sun and is specifically used for ceremony.
Okay.
So the way that the tobacco came about was that there were 4 brothers who were beaver bundle owners who had a series of dreams that were correlated with each other's, and one of them dreamed about this plant, where to find this particular plant. Another one dreamed about this pipe, and the makings of this pipe,
right?
Which has a bowl and a stem, basically. And another one dreamed about how to preserve the plant, and another one dreamed about how to use that plant with the pipe.
Okay.
So they had these dreams together, and they found the plant, and they started growing it and using it. And the people saw what they were doing, and it was a kind of a smudge with their, coming from their bodies. And so the people wanted them to share it, but they said, no, this is our special gift that we got in dreams and doesn't belong to the people in general. So they weren't going to share it.
Yeah.
So the people got really jealous of them, and they went to this older man who was known to have a lot of things that he had got from vision questing, and they asked him if he could find out what this plant was and how to use it. So this old man went out into the coulees and was fasting and thirsting and sleeping out there, hoping to, that something would come along and help him find this plant. And eventually something did. It was what they call Nomski, which is tiger salamander.
Oh, okay.
Came and confronted him and asked him why he's out there doing this. And he told him what was going on. And Nomski, said, well, we maybe can't get you that plant, but we can get you a plant that's more powerful. And so he called on these little birds, and there were 4 of them, and they were all white. And they say that in those days, all the birds were white.
Okay.
All the different species of birds were just white. And this is why even today, among the birds, you'll get these weird albino throwbacks from the time that they were all white.
Okay.
So this first little bird, they sent up, he told him, go to the sun and ask him for the seed for this plant. So the first little bird flew up and only got so high up, turned around, came back down, and he had turned yellow. And so they ended up calling him Otokoisischi, the yellow little bird, which is a yellow warbler.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But he didn't come down with the seed. So they sent the next little bird up. Little bird went way up, and then came down. He couldn't make it up to the sun. But when he came down, he had turned blue. And so they call it Otskoisischi, the blue little bird, which is the mountain bluebird. Okay. So they send this other little bird up. He goes way up past that point, up, but then couldn't make it, turn around, came back down. It had turned red. And we don't really know what that bird was, but there's one in a beaver bundle that I've seen, but I didn't get to inspect it really closely. I've seen it in there, and I think it's a cardinal that used to be here.
Okay.
And the funny thing about cardinals is they really like tobacco.
Oh. Okay.
They're known to associate with tobacco and hang around tobacco fields.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I think it was a tobacco, or the cardinal species that used to be here. But it was a red little bird. So then they sent up the last bird, a little bit bigger than the others, and he flew up, kept going up, and he made it to the sun, and brought the request, and came back down with a little bag of seeds in his mouth, but he had turned black. They call it that bird mate still the crow. So the crow is the only one that can reach the sun. And so he brought these seeds back down, and that man went and grew those seeds that year, and his garden grew, really nice plants, and which he shared with the people. But the 4 brothers that year, their gardens didn't grow.
Okay.
And so they came begging him for some of his tobacco.
Uh-huh.
And they paid him. They gave him the beaver bundles to take care of. And he told them, yes, but from now on, both of these tobaccos are going to be used and grown and used by the people. It's going to be all shared. And so the beaver bundles were from then on always in charge of the tobacco planting ceremonies and the tobacco harvest. And at the end of summer, when the beaver bundles close, in the past, that used to be the after harvest ceremony, and the tobacco was distributed to the people that came to the ceremony, a lot of them being the ceremonialists. The ceremonialists would go into the winter ceremonies, which are called the all-night smokes, and they would further distribute the tobacco to the other ceremonialists. And then when the coming spring came, after the beaver bundles opened, when the first thunder was heard, then the thunder pipes were opened, and the Nampskakes, the thunder peoples, would give tobacco to just the general public. They weren't ceremonialists. Yeah. So there was a whole scheme through the year, like an annual cycle of distribution of the tobacco. And it was very important, for several reasons, but like it came from dreams, and it came from the sun, and it's supposed to be used as a smudge to talk to Spatapio, to talk to, the source of our life. And it's rare, right? It's rare. Right. You can't get it very easy, right? You only get it through this distribution, and there's only so much grown every year. And so if you give somebody a smoke, you're giving them something that's very, that you don't have a lot of.
Right. Okay.
In the past. So today when I see people just, following that old protocol of giving people tobacco, and they just go to the store and buy some tobacco and give it to them and stuff. And to me, the gesture and stuff is still there, and it kind of maintains potential for the, knowledge to continue. But the true understanding of what the gesture's supposed to be, that you're supposed to be giving them something of real value,
a value that's
not
rare
there.
To you, you don't have a lot of. Yeah,
it's not there.
Yeah, so more like the tobacco was the symbol of that, not necessarily the actual. Yeah,
that's
okay,
right.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
So that's the origin of the tobacco. Now, in my tobacco mixture, I use a little bit of both tobaccos, and I use Pinnikinik, which is bearberry and blackberry called Gachsin, grows in the mountains, in the foothills. It's almost like a wintergreen plant on the ground.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I use the bark of red willow or red osier dogwood, the inner bark, the cambium.
Okay.
And just cut that up very small pieces, and that's basically my mixture. I just add till it tastes good. The different elements.
So do you dry it? Obviously,
I just dry it, but I don't I don't smoke it or any of that stuff. I don't like some people will put their tobacco through different soaks and smokes and this kind of a thing. And
right. Yeah.
Make the kind of the more like European style tobacco twists, eh?
Right. Yeah.
But the original tobacco is just straight tobacco, straight dried herb. Yeah, and it's very different. It's much like when I taste commercial tobacco, it tastes like it's got all those chemicals in there that they tell you about. Oh yeah, there's that tar. There's that arsenic.
Yeah. No, it's so you grow the tobacco, like you grow traditional tobacco then?
I do. Yeah. In fact, I'm outside here. I could probably even show you a plant if it doesn't get. I'll watch my my bars of my signal and see. Make sure it doesn't get too. I got one of the sun's plants growing out here right now.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm watching my bars. Bars are looking good so far. Yeah, my pumpkins kind of took over this year. I don't know if you can see my garden is just largely pumpkins at this point.
Oh wow.
But there is one of the sun's tobaccos in here. Where did he go? Oh yes, there's a little one right here.
Oh.
Right down in here.
There?
Where my hand is. My hand is like cupping the couple of leaves. The sun's tobacco is very small, hey? See, I've got a few plants down here. Sorry, I lost you there, right? Yeah. Yeah, there's a few different little plants of it down in here. It grows a little yellow flower. Interestingly, do you travel a lot between...
Oh, okay, so I didn't catch it. It froze up, so...
Oh, it did? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can...
No, it's... Oh, hang on.
Can you see my hand?
Okay. Yeah, I can.
Okay, yeah. Where my hand is, I'm cupping two of the leaves of the sun's tobacco. Right there. Here's a big plant of it right in front of us, actually. Just jumping out now. See this plant here?
Okay.
This is the sun's tobacco. Right here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So... Yeah, so do you happen to travel a lot between Edmonton and Calgary?
No. I don't. Why do you ask?
I noticed something because I used to travel a lot when I was in education more. And one of the places that I used to stay at regularly was the Capri Hotel in Red Deer.
Okay.
If you go to the Capri Hotel, the gardener must know this, but I'm sure nobody else does.
Well, they might now.
The planters all the way around the Capri Hotel are all tobacco.
Oh, seriously? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're just filled with tobacco.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So how long do you have to dry it, Ryan? Like, how long do you dry the plant
for?
It
doesn't take long to dry.
No?
No, hang it up for a week, it's done.
Oh, really?
Probably even less, but just to be safe, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty rare though, is it, in these parts anyway, isn't it?
It's very rare. Like, I'm the only one that I know besides the Capri Hotel's gardener with seeds. I don't know who their gardener is. But there's people...
To make some discreet inquiries. Yeah.
There's people with blood tribe. Well, there's people with pretty much all the tribes here that grow the larger plant.
Okay.
The plant that's like the everyday smoke.
Right.
But the sun's plant, the seed that came from the crow that came down from the sun, that's a really rare plant. Mm. Only me and the Capri Hotel's gardener have that plant. I got mine from the Beaver Bundle. I don't know where he got his.
That's a good question.
Here's a traditional Blackfoot pipe.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. This is my pipe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how often do you use it? Like
at all ceremonies, but I can use it anytime I want to. Just like doing a smudge. If I want to do a prayer and I want to call, like one of the things you can do with these pipes, talking about sacred sites, is bring them to different places, smoke them in different places, and smoke them with different people, and it all is considered to kind of like add to the power of this pipe, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So the history of the pipe is important too, like who has smoked it, who has prayed with it, and where it's been. And so if you take it around and use it and offer different, if you're sitting with an elder visiting, you might just load it up and offer them a smoke, and they'll pray with it before they smoke it, and that adds to it. So there's a whole history that's to this pipe. So when you want to call on that, all of that power of that history of those people, those places, in your prayers, then you can smoke. Okay. So I use it on occasion. No, we have traditional pipe makers still.
Okay.
This is a transferred right to make pipes.
Okay.
So this one's made by Jerry Potts from Peagunny, who is really pretty much the most famous pipe maker of our time.
Wow.
Almost most people that are involved in Blackfoot ceremony have pipes made by Jerry Potts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't just go and buy that at Sheffield's and Sons.
No.
I don't think Sheffield's and Sons actually exists anymore, but
no. And when you go to the curio shops and you see pipes with the, weird feathers and stuff hanging down and all of this.
Yeah.
It's not a real pipe.
that's the Disneyland version.
Yeah. I once had an experience where, Adrian and I did, where we were working for another tribe. I won't say who, but we were working for another tribe at the time, and we were going to go see one of their elders, and ask them to help with something very important. And we were going to bring our pipe. In fact, I think we did bring our pipe. Yeah, we did. But one of the other women who we were working with brought her pipe, and she really wanted to use hers. And so we said, okay, we'll use yours. We don't have to use ours. So then we got to the elder's place, and we saw what she was presenting to him as her pipe, and we were like, oh, yeah, that's not going to work. So we ended up using our pipe instead. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you too, because this is some other plants, and I know you don't. I'm assuming you don't smoke these, but so sweetgrass and sage, right? So
okay. Yeah.
I love sweetgrass. Is such a beautiful. It has a beautiful scent. It's just such a beautiful plant. I love sweetgrass, and I'm curious about sort of the background and the meaning of the sweetgrass and sage.
The sweetgrass is one of the main smudges that came from the sun from the Scarface story.
Okay.
And so the Scarface story is one of the first kind of in the Blackfoot spiritual complex, and the stuff that came from the Scarface story, the bundle that came from it, is now used by the leader of the Horn Society.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, that sweetgrass was used in the first sweat that was given to him. Also, it was used in that first sweat, and then given to him to bring down to use in ceremony here.
Mm.
So it's only used as a smudge. Well, some people will use some as medicine, like might use some in a tea.
Yeah, I've actually had sweetgrass tea before.
Yeah. But in general here, its main purpose is as a smudge to communicate, with the sun.
Okay. I have and I don't even know what it looks like. Like I know, I've seen the dried version of it, right? But I don't, even growing wild. I mean, I know what sage looks like because it stands out sort of like a sore thumb, right? But
sweetgrass will too. Once you have an eye for it, sweetgrass stands out. But it's it's a really dark kind of waxy green when you first come across it. And if you get a fresh braid, that's only even a month old, it's going to look a lot like it does. The leaves are still going to look a lot like they do in the wild in terms of their coloration and stuff.
Okay.
But it grows in moist places. There's some. I found some in Fort Macleod at the Wilderness Park over there. I know there's an area in there you can find it. A lot of it, there's a lot of it growing on the Blood Reserve. There's some growing at Akipiskan at the Women's Buffalo Jump, down at the creek below. There's a lot of little creek and wetland areas where you'll find the sweetgrass growing.
Okay.
So yeah, it's one of the main smudges. It's not the strongest one that we have. There's other smudges that came from the sun and moon after the sweetgrass, but that's the primary one that everyone uses.
Okay.
Sage in Blackfoot culture is basically considered astempsis, which is butt wipe. Right?
So that's its use.
Yeah, in Blackfoot tradition, this is what you wipe your ass with.
Okay.
But it's also
it's kind of a purative, kind of.
But it's also used as a that. It goes along with cleansing. Yeah, it does. It's a purative, like you're saying. So also, if you're having a spiritual cleanse, a lot of times sage will be used.
Right.
So say you've had somebody in your family pass away, someone close in your family pass away recently, something like that. After a short period of time, you are expected to go get cleansed, and that cleanse is done with sage. You use it just like a Blackfoot smudge, but you don't light it. You make it into a ball, and you pass it down your body, each side of your body.
Okay.
2 times on each side, and then you take it out east of your house, and you throw it away.
Okay.
Yeah. East being the downriver area in Blackfoot, so it's not coming back toward you.
Right.
So.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, it's still a cleanser. It's used like that in all-night smoke ceremonies too, and it's used in sweats. Some sweats will use it on the ground as kind of the bedding inside of the sweat. You pick a bunch of sage and lay it down there during the sweat. If you feel a ache or a pain, you might pick up a few of this sage to use as a kind of a swatch to slap the wound, to cleanse it again. But yeah, it's all about cleansing, but definitely it's the traditional wipes.
Well, it's kind of just right there, right? So.
Yeah. Well, it cracked. There's a funny story about, at the all-night smoke ceremonies, at the very beginning of the ceremony, the elder makes a ball of sage and paints it and passes it around, and everybody uses it to cleanse themselves before the ceremony begins. And there was a visitor there who hadn't, been at the ceremony before, and when that ball of sage came to him, he hadn't been watching closely. He wasn't sure what to do with it, so he put it in his mouth and he started to eat it. Everybody had been using it to cleanse themselves.
That's shitty.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there it is.
But yeah, it's always funny to hear like we know other cultures might use it as an incense and stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But then the Blackfoot elders just kind of laugh and say, "Yeah, that's our toilet paper.
That's Sherman. Prairie Sherman.
That's right." Exactly.
Too funny. Well, there it is.
Yeah,
so that's been an hour and 25.
We've
so
gone a bit, haven't we?
Yeah. So no, I appreciate you talking as always there for sure, and sharing the knowledge, because it's very interesting. So
you bet.
Good to know. So
yeah, it's getting dark over here anyway, isn't it?
I can see actually. Yeah, you got this blue hue to you in the picture.
I'm just disappearing.
Well, good. Well, thanks again, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, one of these days we have to go like on a site tour.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because I'd really like to do that. I don't know. Well, I guess it depends what our timetables look like. I don't know if I'm going to get down to Lethbridge before October again, but
right.
But I might, if something works out, maybe make a special trip for a weekend or something like that.
Okay.
If that would work for you, I don't know.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Okay. If I have a little bit of advance notice you're coming, and try to work around it. Go do something.
Yeah, no, that'd be good.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, thanks. I'm going to shut the recorder off here. So,
okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.